Well, Razorback fans, you've had some real down times, but this time feels worse than before. Is that true? Well, let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Neighbors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season big with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, and for those of you who are in certain areas of the state of Arkansas, hopefully you stayed safe out there. A lot of terrible tornadoes and storms and all types of craziness that was going on here yesterday, and really scary stuff. So hopefully everybody survived and made it through okay, and hopefully that's something that's rare, that many storms coming through at once, but still, hope everybody came out okay from it. Yesterday on the podcast, a lot of you had some reactions to the things that I had to say about the current state of the Razorback football program and Sam Pittman. I look back on it, and it's so funny how, you think you have a good pulse on how many Razorback fans feel, and then you start to be a little bit more reserved on coming out and saying certain things or approaching certain things, maybe not being so direct, or maybe being less than direct or whatever it is. But it was pretty incredible to see the amount of just reaction from yesterday's podcast. I think I'm not going to sit here and be arrogant enough to think that I speak for all Razorback fans, because I don't. Razorback fans, just like human beings, have different views and different feelings about everything. But I will say, though, that this is a new, unique feeling for me, okay? And I'm only going to speak for me. You, as Razorback fans, dealing with the football program, have gone through a lot of ups and downs with a lot more downs. There's been some really dark times. There's been some really bad times. And if you just think about over the past 10, 15 years, the Chad Morris era, we all know how bad that was, because going 2-10 in back-to-back years really showcased just how poor it was. I mean, that's just next level bad. The end of the Brett Bielema era was really bad. You went 1-7 in a conference play. You had some close wins, but mainly some kind of embarrassing losses. And I even go back to the John L. Smith year, where you went 4-8 and 2-6 in conference play, and the smile and the state of Alabama, all the stuff to go along with it, just really made it that much worse. But those are really bad times, and I think everybody understands that, and everyone's aware of that, and I don't think I have to remind every Razorback fan exactly just how bad it was during those times. But right now, maybe I'm living in the moment, but right now it feels like this time is bad, but on paper and as far as the team and the season goes, it's not to that level of bad of game times we just mentioned. When you think to Chad Morris, you go 2-10. Yeah, it's awful. And to Brett Bielema, we go 4-8. John L. Smith, went 4-8. But here you are sitting at 5-4, 3-3 in the SEC. It's not good, but it's also not doomsday trash program, bottom of the barrel, laughing stock embarrassment that it has been before. So why are Hog fans overall so done with what's going on right now? Why are Razorback fans just done with it, wanting to blow it up, move on from Sam Pittman, change everything up after sitting here at 5-4? Especially given the circumstances of going into the season, the expectation was set for being a 6-6, 7-5 type season, with both being realistic, I guess, at least the 6-6 season. Why is it feeling such to that level of low for most people? And I started thinking about it a lot, and I looked at it from my own personal perspective. And I believe the word that I want to use for Razorback fans is exhausted. Razorback fans are exhausted. We all been there before, right? When you've been just mentally tired. I mean, physically exhausting is one thing, but we're talking about mentally. You've been mentally exhausted before. And there's different reasons for that. A lot of times it's just work. You're putting in all long hours and you just feel like you're never getting caught up. You're always still having these issues and whatever it is. You feel like you never get to the point to where you need to be and where you try to be. There's other parts of it too that kind of on the other side of it where maybe you just have a lot of bad things happening in your life that you just one on top of the other starts piling up, having to deal with a lot of things emotionally. Those are probably a lot more important than this, but I think the principle is still the same. This Razorback season and really the Razorback football program over the past few seasons have been wearing down on Razorback fans because emotions get the most worn out whenever it's a roller coaster, whenever it's up and down, whenever you are excited 1 second and happy and optimistic to being the very next week pissed off, depressed, angry, sad, all the above. And then the next week, it flies right back up. That's exhausting to try to deal with. I always hear about the emotional roller coaster and how exhausting it can be and how much it weighs on you and it weighs on your well-being and it weighs on your mind. And I think we've gotten to the point as Razorback fans to where that's why fans feel the way that they do, even though Arkansas is not the worst team in the SEC by far. They're actually much improved, much better than what they were a year ago. But here we are feeling this way, feeling that there's no coming back from this. There's no real light at the end of the tunnel. It's because we've lost that trust. We've lost the trust of anything actually staying in one spot. When you feel good the one week and you feel terrible the next week. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not going to predict it to happen. But let's be honest. How many of you would be surprised if Arkansas randomly just beat Texas? Okay, maybe surprise is not the right word because I think everybody would be. But you know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be just, wow, that came out of nowhere type of thing. It'd be like, yeah, that's on brand for this team. They go out and they beat Texas. And who knows, maybe rush the field or something. The excitement's back. Everyone's feeling good. Then the next week, you go and you lay an egg against Louisiana Tech. Or you get smoked by Missouri on the road. Whatever it is. That's what this team and that's what this program has been about. Never knowing really what they are. I don't know what they are. You don't know what they are. They don't know what they are. And when you're trying to deal with that, and something that means so much to you and something you pay so much attention to and you give so much of your passion and your emotion and your attention to it, and it's constantly up and down all around, it's going to wear you out. To where a lot of you just get to the point of just end it. I'm tired of dealing with this. The goods are good, but the bads are bad. And there's not been enough good to outweigh the bad. The bad things have not been made up for with the good. And it's one of those things where you see this season and Arkansas with their 3 SEC wins, granted beat 2 of the worst teams in the SEC, but then they beat one of the best teams in the SEC. How does that make sense? How does it make sense? And even in the losses, yeah, Arkansas lost to some really good teams. They lost to an LSU team that's really good, and A&M and Ole Miss, really good teams. But they lost to Oklahoma State, one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Make it make sense. And when you go through all those emotional roller coasters, and when you go through the thing where, again, and you can use this for anything in life, when you go through it all and you're trying to focus in on and trying to maintain your passion and your love and your your feelings towards something that's really important to you, but it's constantly doing that to you, you just want to move on. You just want to get out of this. You don't want to deal with it anymore. You want to pull your hair out. You just want to just give up because it's not worth the stress. It's not worth the pain. It's not worth the headache that it is providing you each and every week. We like things to make sense. We like logic. The human race may be a little clumsy at times, but it's not stupid when it comes to thoughts and ideas and feelings towards things, generally speaking. Human nature, if you would. Something as simple as like, hey, if this person is coming at me with a knife, then I know they're probably looking to harm me. Things like that. You kind of can understand and have a good grasp around something that's going on and what it could lead to. But when we have something that we're looking at and we're seeing it, but zero idea what it'll lead to, zero idea what to expect, zero idea of how it's going to go, it's a very dangerous and very disappointing way of living. It is. And that's how I feel. Again, my opinion on it. That's how I feel as a Razorback fan. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what I'm going to get against Texas next week. I don't know who's going to be good and who's not. I don't know if the offense is going to be good or the defense is going to be good, or if both will be bad. I don't know if the guy's going to make a field goal or not out there. He can make a 55-yarder, but this is a 40-yarder. I don't know. And that is scary. The unknown and the uncertainty of anything is always a very scary thing that we don't ever want to deal with. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. Maybe I'm giving it way too much thought processes or overthinking it. But to me, what we've seen, what we've endured, and what we've had to talk about, none of it makes sense. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to try to figure out. I'm almost to the point, just like all of you, where I'm done trying. I just want to move on. Plain and simple. But we will talk about how the next 3 games are going to go, because I do want to bring up a few interesting points about that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, all you Razorback fans out there, it is time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes that you love, ensuring that all the funds go to the specific player that you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going. And even if you receive, even when you're going to receive that exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season, it's the best part. Actually, that's not even the best part. The best part is that it's risk-free. So if the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver on the content, you can get your money back. This week, I'm going to be supporting Malachi Singleton. That's right, Malachi Singleton from this past weekend. And I'd love for you to join me. I just pitched in $100. Even if you can only do $10, that's what makes a difference. Let's show Malachi Singleton the love and keep him and you connected to the school here at Arkansas. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. You win 2 tickets in a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code LOCKEDON, and you are entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered in automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_ReturnOnYou for more info. Roy, support the players and change the game. We're also brought to you, of course, by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with the FanDuel's, which is America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets simply if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app, it gives you everything that you need to place live bets on in the NFL, college football, everything, all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I know fans right now, you're going to be turning the page for basketball, which we'll talk about as the week goes on. I know Curtis definitely always does a great job when talking about the Pod at the Palace edition that happened yesterday too. But the final 3 games, Arkansas plays Texas, Louisiana Tech, and Missouri. Texas is number 5 in the country. They played Florida this weekend. Louisiana Tech's a really bad team. And then you have Missouri at the end of the season. So I was asked yesterday by one of you, what would it take to make everybody feel good about the end of the season? Well, winning the next 3 games would be a nice start. Don't think it's going to happen. But you win the next 3, you go 8-4. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone would be pretty happy with the final result. They wouldn't be happy in the process that it got you there, but they'd be happy with the final result. But let's try to look at this a little bit more logically, shall we? And also rationally. Arkansas is not going to go undefeated the rest of the way. They just aren't. I think they are going to win at least one more. I think they beat Louisiana Tech. And I think the most realistic thing is for Arkansas to win one more SEC game. Not saying that they will for sure, but it's possible. They got Missouri at the end of the year, and that would be their best bet. Because if Ole Miss did that to Arkansas at home, and if LSU did that to Arkansas at home, I can't imagine what Texas is going to try to do to Arkansas at home. Like I think it's going to happen that way, and it's going to go very, very poorly. Very poorly. So if you beat Louisiana Tech, that gets you to that bowl win 6. I mean, you're probably going to end up going to the Liberty Bowl or, go to Montgomery or some crap like that. Bowl game that no one wants to go to, no one wants to be a part of. Probably be playing like Rutgers or something like that, which actually I did see a bowl projection having Arkansas playing Rutgers in the Birmingham Bowl. I don't think I could just throw up any more than what I would see with that. But still, whatever. It's not going to excite everybody. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the mind of Razorback fans. It's not going to make you all pumped up and excited about the rest of the way. It's not going to do that. But if you're able to beat Louisiana Tech and somehow, some way, beat Missouri at the end of the season, would that make all Razorback fans leap for joy and pump up and say, man, what a great year we did it? Probably not. Probably not. But you go 7-5, 4-4 in SEC play. You finally get that win against Missouri that you haven't won very many times, and you've never won up there in Columbia. It would be a nice way to end the season. But it's still not going to get everybody pumped up and excited. And I don't care what anybody says. This is really the point I wanted to make. If you don't have excitement following the season, I'm talking about regular season, forget the bowl game. If you don't have excitement following the regular season, when you got transfer portal, when you got high school early signing class, you have, all of that. If there's no excitement then, there's not going to be any excitement the next year. And when you don't have excitement, you don't have energy. When you don't have energy, you don't have fans. You don't have fans, you don't have support. When you don't have support, you don't have money. When you don't have money, you don't have much. Not in college football, at least. So that's my biggest concern about this. And that's why I continue to feel like, regardless of what happens, barring you going 3-0 the rest of the way, which even 3-0, again, I'll admit, 3-0 would be great. And it would be awesome if you found a way to go 5-3 in SEC play at 8-4 overall. Yes, that'd be great. But part of me would almost be mad because it's like, okay, well, where was this before? So I'm not even going to entertain that notion. But if you went 7-5, it's good enough to at least say this, to at least know that it wasn't a failure of a season. It wasn't a great season, but not a failure. But to go 6-6, then change has got to be made. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And honestly, I think that part of it might be inevitable. You know, it truly might be inevitable. I hate that's come to this way, but when you get embarrassed like that on your home field in November against an SEC rival, especially in year 5, doesn't exactly breed confidence that this is going to be okay as long as you just stick with it. The loyalty is not there because it just doesn't give that vibe right now. I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, so we're going to talk about a little basketball, just a little bit, here on the other side of the break. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, folks, I got to tell you about this great product that you've heard me talk about before. I'm going to talk about it again because it's absolutely worth it. It is ZBiotics. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Each one of my friends has ever tried this product out whenever they've heard me talk about it. They've tried it, and you wouldn't believe how great they felt the next morning. Especially guys that friends of mine that normally don't feel that great. They were like, hey, this stuff is legit, and this stuff really works. So you need to try it as well. It's a very simple thing. All you got to do is with step 1, drink alcohol, your pre-alcohol. And for best results, make it the first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Hydrate, pace yourself. Make sure you get a good night's sleep. And then step 3 is enjoying tomorrow. Because when you wake up, you're going to be feeling great. So go to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege to learn more and to get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to ZBiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege to check out for 15% off. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So Razorback Basketball starts this week, folks. I know it doesn't seem like it to some, but it does. It officially starts this week. You got a game against Lipscomb on Wednesday night in Bud Walton Arena, and Arkansas comes into that game ranked 16th in the country. It's just fair. You know, I know that they lost to TCU in that exhibition game last week, and a lot of you have kind of brought up to me like, oh, you know, I don't know. TCU's not that good and everything. I said it like afterwards. I think I said on my show yesterday too. But I'm kind of glad that they lost, to be honest. As weird as that is, I'm kind of glad. Because anytime you get through a type of game like Kansas and they're the number 1 team in the country and it doesn't count, but you start to feel yourself a little bit, maybe a little bit too much, you could set yourself up for a pretty quick failure. So I'm kind of glad that Arkansas was able to get that failure, quote, out of the way early and when it doesn't count. Because now it gets a little humble pie of like, hey, you're good. You're really good. You could be great. But you ain't there yet. You got to keep working. You got to keep at it. You got to keep working. So that was a really good indicator, a really good way of kind of humbling the team a little bit. And I think they're going to be ready. I really do. I think that this game against Lipscomb, which, again, Arkansas should win no matter what. But, I like to see kind of like a warm-up of like getting the team back. Looks like Jonas Aidoo is going to be able to be ready to go. Continue to get the rotations down. Continue to develop some guys. Get the talent out there is about as good as you could ask for. And so you got to get it going. You got to get ready. But the thing is right after this game, they have to play the Baylor Bears, who's number 8 in the country. That game's going to be down in Dallas. I'm actually going to be down there for that. And it's going to be on ESPNU, 6:30 on Saturday night at American Airlines Arena. And after that, you got Troy, Pacific, Little Rock, Maryland Eastern before the Thanksgiving game against Illinois. So my point is, this week is going to be really interesting. How you come out in that starting game, in that very first game when it counts and it's real. How do you look against Lipscomb? And what are you able to do and accomplish going on the road to a neutral location, taking on the Baylor Bears, a really well-coached team, a really good program, a really good team that's got a lot of talent? How are you going to handle going up against them? That's going to be the ultimate question. That's going to be the ultimate key. And if you're able to find a way to get by Baylor, I'm not saying you will, but if you do, you got quite a few more games to figure things out, or at least theoretically figure things out before it gets really crazy again, because after that Maryland Eastern game, then Illinois Thanksgiving, you go on the road to Miami. You come back for UTSA, which is fine, but then you got Michigan up in Madison Square Garden after that. So you have a pretty difficult schedule at times and a pretty difficult layout, but I can't wait to see what they're capable of. Now that it counts. Can't wait to see Jonas Aidoo. Can't wait to see Nelly Davis continue to try to get better and improve. Boogie Flan is an incredible freshman that's so fun to watch. DJ Wagner is a great defender that was the number one overall player coming out of high school for a reason a couple years ago. I mean, you got so much there. So much there. I just want to see what happens when it all comes together and what you can do with it. I'm excited about it. I don't care what anybody says. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see how this goes. But just remember, folks, there's going to be games that this team loses. Just saying. It's going to happen. There are going to be times where this team loses. So just be on the lookout and be aware of that. Appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching in to the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at, John Neighbors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.